noticed, it's about halfway through the legislative session, and there's been, we've sort of seen the showboat stuff, which happens back in the fall, right? But there's a lot of really good work that happens during the session. So of importance to our viewers, what happened that was really a big deal this week?
Well, we had a great week this week in the Oklahoma House of Representatives. This is what we call deadline week. What that means is every bill that didn't come out of the House is dead for this session. And then over the next 6 weeks, we'll be considering Senate bills. We passed everything from the Save Women's Sports Act, dealing with biological women playing in women's sports in Oklahoma. We passed a series of tax cuts, which I think are great for the state of Oklahoma. We passed a comprehensive broadband package, which is really moving Oklahoma into this next century. We're really excited about what's happened, and we're assigning Senate bills right now, and the legislature moves on. We'll be going again next week.
It's going to be more fun. Now, I mentioned there were showboat bills, and then there was the meat and potatoes work. From your viewpoint, what really what happened this week that was good?
Yeah, as I've talked about on this show before, this week, deadline week, we expected that we'd see a lot of social and cultural bills that were brought to the House and Senate floors. That happened in both places. Those bills will now flip-flop to the other sides. I think one of the biggest bills this week that took place was on Wednesday into the early morning, almost midnight, with the Education Savings Account bill that did not get the votes that it needed to get out of the Senate this year. That was a huge deal for public education, big win in the state for public schools, keeping that money focused on the kids that are in brick-and-mortar schools.
It's good to watch, I'll tell you, on the stream. All right, so we talked about what happened this week, but it sets up the next question, which is easy, which is what's next?
Well, yeah, what's next is what my colleague has just said. You'll now see House bills that have been passed off the House floor move over to the Senate, Senate bills that have been passed off the Senate floor move over to the House. Both of those bills will have to go through the committee process in both chambers. Then they will go out to the requisite floors and then be taken up to see if they're going to get signed by the governor. This next period is a shorter period. We've moved from over 5,000 bills now down to probably 600 or so that are still out there. Many of those don't have title on them, which you probably at home don't know what that means, but we'll spend more shows telling you about that. There's a lot of time left to get things done, but there's a lot fewer things to work on.
Yeah, we ought to just do an FAQ show at some point. All right, of importance, what do you think is next?
Now is the time in the legislative session to coalesce around what we're going to do. So there's some big priorities that we need to get done. We need to get broadband. We need to finalize that, get the ARPA money out to where we get more high-speed internet throughout Oklahoma. We need to focus on which tax cuts we're going to pass, because we are going to cut taxes this session. And then we need to have a focus between the House and the Senate on what exactly marijuana regulation bills we're going to pass. Bills that both keep the market in place, the legal market that people voted for, but kick out the black market. So the real work is happening now, and what we're coalescing around is what's going to finally get passed and end up on the governor's desk.
Okay, some real meat and potatoes work got done this week. We're going to talk about that when we come back in just a few minutes. Some really good work that we've been talking about for months got done this week, and one of the most important lunch pail issues that I've seen coming down the pike was broadband. With the pandemic, we needed all kinds of new things that broadband brings, and there's some real movement.
Yeah, there was huge movement this week, and I think at home everyone's thinking broadband, well, that's easy. The idea that we would want to have broadband in rural Oklahoma, that's easy. Well, the difficult part about that was you had the rural electric co-ops, which were outside of the purview of federal regulation. So when cable companies were trying to think about taking broadband to rural Oklahoma, you had to go through the rural electric co-ops. That fight has been brewing for years. This year, with the work of Representative Martinez, Representative Carl Newton in the House, they made an agreement with the rural electric co-ops and the big cable companies to figure something out so that we could get broadband out to rural Oklahoma. It's a huge win for the state of Oklahoma.
It sure is. And Speaker McCall has really been leading the way on this for several years now. Just what does this mean for Oklahoma?
Well, I would like to say broadband, it's not just for rural Oklahoma. I get messages from constituents right in House District 90. 100% of my district is Oklahoma City. I still have constituents that don't have high-speed internet. We did some huge things in the House. Number one, we got the deal between the co-ops and the electric companies for pole attachments, which is a big deal. And then second, we passed a comprehensive broadband plan with Representative Logan Phillips leading the way on that. This has been a House priority. Speaker McCall has talked about this all the time. This is the best year we have had on it, and you're going to see lots of ARPA money getting put into expanding that broadband to the places in Oklahoma that don't have it.
Okay, and we talked earlier about a lot of these press release showboat bills that gather up all the momentum, all the press, all the media. But there was a really big issue dealing with taxes. It's on the plate out there. It's not as sexy a topic, but it's important.
Well, it's incredibly important. The House passed Title Off. Title Off means we're still in negotiations. A corporate tax cut, an income tax cut, a grocery tax cut of the sales tax on the state side. It wouldn't be all grocery sales tax. Cities and counties still could. And a tax rebate plan, similar to what George W. Bush did. We can't pass all of these things. The price tag is too big. But now's the time to coalesce around what we're going to do during historic inflation. And I've been talking about stagflation on this show before anybody was talking about it. Now we're seeing it in the housing market. During historic inflation brought to us on by federal policies from the federal government, we need to put some money back in the hands of Oklahoma citizens.
Okay, you have been talking about inflation for quite a while. The debate is going to be what to do with the money, and it's about to begin.
It is about to begin, and let's remember all of these bills that my colleague was just talking about are coming out of the House and moving over to the Senate. So the House, even though they've taken title off, has showed that they would like to do big tax reform. Now those will go to the Senate. I think what Oklahomans at home need to think about isn't so much about how much your taxes are getting cut, but how are we investing your money in the state of Oklahoma so that we have a better future in the next 10 years and the next 20 years. That debate is going to continue over the next 3 to 4 weeks. As my colleague said, there is not enough money to do all of those things, so they'll need to make sure that they do the things that make the biggest impact.
Sure will. All right, you can see that debate right here. See this again at news9.com/yourvotecounts and follow me on Twitter at Mitchell Talks.